Everybody, welcome back to another fun and exciting Algebra 1 class. We only have 2 lessons left, can you believe it? 12.7 today, second to last lesson in the book. Horizontal translations of functions. So in the last video, what we did was we did vertical translations. What are vertical? Up and down translations. This one we're going to do left to right translations, horizontal translations. There is a difference between the two, and it's a very important difference, and you have to be paying attention. Here on the screen, and then in your book, it's on page 477. Page 477. Here on the screen, I have it written down, and then also in your book, it's got a little box with it in it. It says on the screen here, the main difference with horizontal translations is that the movement seems to be going in the opposite direction. Negative numbers move it to the right. Now, if you're thinking about it, you're like, well, to the right on the graph is positive, so positive numbers should move it to the right. Exactly. But negative numbers move it to the right. It's opposite. It feels opposite. So be careful of that. And then positive numbers move it to the left. So it's exactly the opposite that you would think. Up and down, positive moves it up, negative moves it down. Everything's normal there. But left to right is backwards. Negative moves it right, positive moves it left. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at that and let's kind of examine how that works. Well, right here, when we look at this, it's a -1. So which way is it going to move? -1 is going to move to the right one place. Okay? So if we set up our little graph right here, it would be one movement to the right, and this is where our point would be. And again, it sounds backwards because that's negative. It shouldn't be doing that. Now, you might want to know why that happens, okay? And you should want to know why. And here's the reason why. This is actually a formula right here. This x plus 1 or x minus 1 is a formula. And here's the way the formula goes. We'll learn the formula more in Algebra 2, and we'll understand it more in Algebra 2, but I just want to kind of share it with you now so that you kind of understand it going into Algebra 2. Here's what it looks like. This number right here is called the h value, okay? And so it's x minus h. Now, the formula itself is negative. So in other words, in this case, our h equals 1. It doesn't equal -1. The formula is negative, okay? In other words, it is going the right direction, but our formula makes us think that it's going in the wrong direction. It looks like it's going in the wrong direction, but in reality, our h is 1. Our movement is +1, and we are going to the positive direction. But when we go back here and we look at it within the formula, it looks like it's negative, okay? And so we have to remember, even though it looks negative, it's actually positive. It's actually going to the right. Okay, it feels backwards, it looks backwards. You're just going to have to learn that for right now. The more we practice with it, the more it will become natural for you. So let's start with our little chart here, our x and our y. This is how we've been doing it. And we want to start with our vertex. So what is our vertex? All right, here's what it is. Kind of pretend like this is over here with this. So this is x squared. This is our parent function, right? Okay, so what did we add to the parent function? We added this -1. Technically, it's a +1. Okay, and that's the trick. This is the place. This is the trick right here. It is a +1. Okay, so in this case, our y is at 0 because we don't have anything over here. There's nothing like on the other ones where we're adding or subtracting a constant. There's nothing over here. But our x is different. Our x has a 1, and it's a +1. And here, this is so hard to remember. But you don't write a -1 right there. You write a positive 1. Because the formula is negative, so it gets a positive 1. That's what moves it to the right, okay? So there you go. That's our vertex. Our vertex is shifted over one spot from the parent, okay? All right, now what we want to do is we want to just start substituting things in. Since we're here, if I was you, I would probably come over here and I would graph this right now. When we do our one on one side and one on the other side, like we were doing the last lesson, what we need to do is we need to come over here one spot. So our one spot to the right is going to be at 2, okay? Our one spot to the left is going to be at 0. So one spot to the right is 2 on the x. One spot to the left is 0 on the x. Okay, now this is tricky. These two numbers right here are going to give us the same thing, believe it or not. So watch this. Y equals x is now 2. 2 minus 1 squared. So we have to do inside the parentheses first. What's 2 minus 1? It's 1. What's 1 squared? It's 1. Okay? Now, you don't believe me right now. I know you don't believe me. I can see through this computer screen, and you are doubting me. So this 0 right here, now we put it in for x minus 1 squared. Again, we solve inside here, and we get negative 1 inside the parentheses. Well, we square everything that's inside of the parentheses. What do we get? Negative 1 times negative 1 equals positive 1. That gave us the same answer. And that, again, that's another little tricky part with doing these ones with the X translation, horizontal. Okay. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to come over here one more spot. So if we're at the 2, now we're at the 3. If we're at the 1, we want to come over here to the negative 1. And those are going to be the same. 3 and negative 1 are going to give us the same value. Now, I know you're listening to me this time. I know you're paying attention. Now you're like, wait, what? But you don't doubt me this time because I proved you were wrong on the other one. So let's do this one. Maybe you weren't wrong. Maybe you were right. Maybe you believed me. All right, so let's do it with 3 and negative 1. So we're going to put in 3 minus 1 squared. What's 3 minus 1? That's 2. What's 2 squared? That's 4. Okay, so we're going to get a 4 there. Now let's put in our negative 1. So now we have negative 1 minus 1 squared. Okay, what's negative 1 minus 1? That's negative 2 squared. What's negative 2 times negative 2? Positive 4. Look there, we got the same thing again. You see what? And it's a little bit hard to understand because we're shifted over one. We moved over one. So you're not just going on, each side of it, but you are going on each side of it. You're going 1 to the right and 1 to the left. Then you're going 2 to the right and 2 to the left. That's the way that it works. Okay, and so you have to get that movement. And I'm just going to tell you something. I've been teaching this class for a long time, so I know what's coming up on your test, and I promise you there's going to be this question. Not exactly like this, but really different numbers, but exactly like this. You're going to have a movement that's going to throw you off. You're going to have a horizontal, and you're going to struggle with it because you're not paying attention and you're not learning the movements on here. So really focus on this. This is important. This can mess you up on the test if you don't pay attention right here. Okay? All right. So now here is our graph. Let me kind of straighten this out a little bit. All right. So we're going to go. Let me make a few marks here. All right. Now let's put the first one on the graph. Let's put our vertex. 1 on the x, 0 on the y. So that one's right here. It's still on the x. It's not going up or down. We're just going left and right. Now we're going to go to 2, 1. So go to, you got to go back to this one. So you're going 1, 2, 1. positive 1. So we're up here. All right, let's go to the next one. 0, 1. So now we're right here, and we're just going up 1. Okay, you can kind of see what it's doing right here already. There's our movement. So now we're going to go to 3. 1, 2, whoops, there we go. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And 4 up. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're right here with our next point. And then our following point would be negative 1. So 1 over here and 4 up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're right here. All right, there is our parabola. So we're just going to try to make our curve in here. And there you go. Our parabola is shifted over 1. 1 to the right. Okay. All right, now we're going to do one that's a little bit more challenging. You're like, whoa, wait a second. More challenging than that? Are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. Check this dude out. This dude has a horizontal. This dude has a vertical. And this dude has a reflection. So it's got 3 different movements. Some of you are like, whoa, 3 movements. Yes, and we can do it, okay? We can do it together. So let's start off with finding the vertex. So we're going to need our X and our Y chart. What's our vertex? Well, let's say that 0, 0 is the parent. What has been added to the parent? Well, we have a plus 2. So on the Y, we're going to be at 2. And then we have a plus 1. Now, this is so tricky. Remember, that was a negative h right there, I told you. And so the 1 is a negative 1, because look what happens. When we add the negative to the negative, we get a positive. So our h number, our x number, if you will, is negative 1. Remember, it goes backwards. You have to remember it goes backwards. It's hard to remember, but that goes to the left. This positive goes to the left. All right. This doesn't mess with us right now, finding the vertex. That's what rotates it down. That's what flips it down. Okay. All right, so this is our vertex. So we can kind of come over here and we can kind of plan our vertex over here. So negative 1. So negative 1. So we're going to go negative 1 and then negative or positive 2. So 1 and then positive 2. So we're right there somewhere with our vertex. Negative 1, positive 2. Next, what we want to do is we want to say, okay, we want to come over here 1, and we want to come over here 1. So what is this? Well, that's 0 on the x. And what is this? This is 1, 2. That's negative 2. So we want to do 0 and negative 2. Why do we want to do 0 and negative 2? Because we want to be 1 away from our vertex. This is our vertex. Okay, that's where the thing's actually it's going to go this way. So this is our vertex. So we want to go 1 over. That's on the 0. And we want to go 1 this way. That's on the 2, the negative 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug in our 0. So where there's an x, we're going to put a 0. Don't forget we have that negative sign sitting out front. Okay. Parenthesis 0 plus 1 squared plus 2. Okay, don't forget about that guy up there too. So we just solve what's in there and we get 1 squared plus 2. Don't forget that negative sign waiting out front for this 1 squared. What's 1 squared? It's 1, but then it has a negative sign, plus 2. What's negative 1 plus 2? Negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1. So this is going to be positive 1. Now, we can just write a positive 1 in right there. You might not still believe me, but you can do it. Okay? And you're going to start trusting me because it's going to save you time. I'm going to do it so that you can see it one more time. But if we put the negative, and then we do negative 2 plus 1 squared plus 2. So do this, and we get negative 1 squared. Don't forget the negative out front. So negative 1 squared is going to be negative 1 because we get 1, and then the negative out front makes it negative 1 plus 2. What's negative 1 plus 2? It's 1. There you go. I told you it was going to come out the same. It does every time. All right, now what we want to do is we want to go back to our vertex, and we want to say, okay, so that was 1 over and 1 over. So we want to now go 2 over. So that's going to be positive 1 on the x, and that's going to be 1, 2. That's going to be negative 3 on the x going that way. All right, so now we just plug those in. All we need to do is plug in one of them. So we'll go here with the positive 1. We'll go negative 1 plus 1 squared plus 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. There's a negative waiting out front for it. And so we get 4, negative 4 plus 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So both of these are going to be negative 2. All right, so let's go ahead and plug in our points. So now we have a point at 0. We'll do this one, 0, 1. So we're at 0, and then we're up 1. So we're right here. And then we have one at negative 2, 1. So 1, 2, 1. So we're right here. Okay. Next, we are at positive 1, negative 2. So positive 1, negative 2. So we're right about here somewhere. And then we are at negative 3, negative 2. Negative 3, negative 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Right about here somewhere. Okay. And I'm not making these perfect. I'm just kind of drawing them so you can see them. All right, so there's our parabola curving down. What made it curve down? This negative sign waiting out front for everything. Okay. What shifted it up? This positive 2. What shifted it left? This positive 1. Okay, positive 1 shifts it left. Be careful of that. That's important. All right, if you missed anything, slide it back and watch it again. Lots of stuff going on there. All right, work hard on this. Practice some of those. Try those. And like I said, I promise you're going to get one like that on the test. It's going to be moving it all over. So pay attention to that problem right there. That's an important one for you to look at. All right, we'll see you later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.